They glued the lid down. Fantastic. This looks like a I don't want to disturb them too much, but you can see the white cappings. That's honey. What you can do if you get too many bees are in here, you just kind of brush them off. And let's talk about why you want to keep bees. Well, bees getting... These are guard bees. So that these bees are going back in the hive and not inside me. But the hive's looking very strong. But I haven't really talked about beekeeping. So I get focused on trying to inspect these guys. And what I do to get these boxes back on is I just gently put these on like so. Make sure that I don't have any bees that get squashed or rolled or anything like that nicer. Then this, like there's one right there that was almost gonna get squashed. And I just put them on like so. Try to square it as best I can. Is what's going to happen is you're going to have purplish. The bees will line it up. It's very sticky. This is purplish right here. So now I'm going to get my frames and try not to step on any bees while I'm at it. But I haven't talked about if you're deciding to get into the hobby, why you said some pros and cons of that. I've already said the pros is getting your own honey. The cons is quite literally you know, or these main reasons. Alright, I'm a little distracted because I'm used to having this veil so down in my face. So I'm looking at my veil and I can see the top of the veil right at eye level and I'm going, ah. A little bit distracting. As I get hung up by, so I'm just checking to see the camera. You don't want to squash any bees. That would be bad. Now they're finding out, hey, we have more room. downside of this is when I start getting sorry about that, I had a sunflower in my way. Okay. I do apologize for my spottiness. I get a little distracted and focus in on these life forms, but organisms, bees, whatever. But the pros and cons. Said the pros were getting your own honey. For example, a frame like this weighs 6 pounds, fully loaded with honey. And let me a frame like this. This is what we call a medium. And you got 10 of them. Well, that's 60 pounds of honey. Well, that was one of the main reasons why people go, I don't know. Because, you know, if you order and you have a herniated back, or you have weight restrictions, well, that can affect many things. Another problem is if you're in one of the rare percent of this that is allergic to bees, well, that's going to be a bit of an issue. As I try to put a frame in upside down. That's going to be a very big issue because you will develop a life-threatening very life-threatening reaction called anaphylaxis, and it is deadly. The other thing is you may have a neighbor, of course, family member that also has that condition. Well, that condition, well, let's be honest, do you really want to risk that condition? Now, if you do have some issues, what you can do is this. Say that condition. What happens when you smash some bees? They are very hygienic. I might have crushed the bee. I heard the crunch. But you got a good eye there. Again, I apologize. I have not really focused in because it's hard for me to talk while I'm doing my beekeeping. But as I never got past the pros and cons. Okay. Take my hive tools here. And I didn't get stung once. I'm getting better. Okay. part of the reason why it's hot in this suit, as you can see. Okay. Pros and cons. Said two of the major cons. It's very physical. Say very physical. I mean, a box like this, fully loaded, weighs up to 100 pounds. Now, you should be asking yourself, can I lift 100 pounds? And this is beside the fact of you going, hey, what if I'm allergic? I've never been stung by bees. I don't know. I don't know if I'm allergic or not. Well, you need to find that one out real quick. Because if you are, and you don't realize it, and you get stung, it's life-threatening. Good, now I can take this equipment off. Something else that I didn't mention that I found out about was your home association that you live in may not allow for keeping of bees. And I never zipped up my hood. You get more comfortable with these items. Whew, that's hot. Okay. Now I can get in the nitty-gritty. So we did a basic inspection, and I've been rambling because it's hard for me to focus talking while trying to deal with livestock. Okay, I talked about two. Let's see if I can edit that out. Yeah, you saw me go in, and I've brought up the two main reasons constantly. Alright. Problem number one. It is very physical. Problem number two. You have to find out if you're allergic or someone close to you is. Problem number three, you have to find out if your homeowner association allows bees, because some people do consider these dangerous animals. They are livestock, so you have to take that into consideration. Problem number four, it is very expensive. That bottom box there, this is what we call 10 frame deep. Now I bought, my old man bought it as a kit for a birthday gift. It came with the basic tools, the smoker that you see there, the high body, which is where the whoa. But you see, they're pretty timid, as it's still buzzing around me. Apologize. It's still buzzing around me. Okay, so I might stay a little farther back this time. Apologize. So let's start over. Issue number one, it's very physical. If I were to weigh that completely full, those 3 boxes, that's going to be up to 360 pounds, maybe more. Issue number two, excuse me. You gotta find out if you're allergic or not, or you have people that's next to you or live with you, neighbors that are allergic. Very life-threatening. It's rare, but it's still a possibility. Issue number 3, it is expensive. You can run up to $1,000. The bees alone, especially if you want to buy get a decent start, can be up to $250. Now, not all the honeybees are going to work for depending on their climate. When I say climate, for example, I'm in northeastern Oklahoma. The local climate out here is completely different compared to the central part of the state. I'm gonna stay back here a little more. And you saw I added more frames to this. Probably not ideal, but hey, you do what you gotta do. I had to buy the bees separately, and they came from Georgia. And what that will allow, and I bought a package bee set. You can buy them you can buy a package of 3-pound bees, which is this, looks like a little shoebox string together by chicken wire. You have about 10,000 bees in there. They're older bees, so you have to introduce. They'll have the queen separate from the body. They have it in a separate case, and you have to introduce the queen to the bees so they can accept her. Then they have to build up all the equipment. You buy a nuke, which is basically a half of a hive, as I call it. It's 5 frames. They already have the basic start, so it's a lot easier. Then you have to supplement feeding, which that gets a little expensive. Then you come around a second year to get the honey. And for the winters out here, I need to have at least 2 of those boxes filled. 18 to 20 frames of honey. Now I put the super on hoping they would get a little jump start on it. I had a little bit of beeswax, not a whole lot. But I can start them with. You do, it's not required, but it's a good idea to register a hive. Like out here, it's $10 a year. And that goes on a sensitivity map. It lets the county know, hey, do not fumigate for mosquitoes, because you fumigate for mosquitoes, you'll kill the bees. Pesticides do not discriminate. I also know at least Sodi had to light a bee smoker. Now let's say you end up going, hey, I don't mind the price. I don't mind doing the labor. Okay. Now it goes into 2 other things. Join a local beekeeping club. They will have a class that you can learn from. You may be able to get a mentor, and it's always great to have a support group. The next thing is pick the species of bees. You have 3 types of species of honeybees. You have Italians, which is what I have, which like very mild winters, which we typically do have out here. Now the smoker's wanting to go. You have the Caribbeans, starts with a C. I know I can't pronounce it very well. It's what I call the Spanish honeybee. They are a little more built up than the Italian. They like a little harder winters. Then you have the Russians, which really like hard winters. And this is how you want a smoker. Now the next thing is, once you pick what your species are, you have to either get them from a local beekeeper, which now's the time to buy. Every once in a while, if you go to like an internet company, like there's a company I think called Mountain Sweet Honey, it's where I ordered from. They actually had a discounted price for a flash sale, so I got my bees a little cheaper. Like I had ordered my bees in January of last year. I didn't get them to April of this year. And you saw that top box where I just briefly inspected one and said, okay, they need another box. Oh, got buzzed by a bee. The next thing to be cautious of is pests. Bees do have a few pests to deal with. You have wax moths and hive beetles. Now hive beetles are going to, they're everywhere. They're from, some people said I'm gonna stand back here, get out of the flight path. But the hive beetles are sub-Saharan African I believe it's South Africa. They're a scarab beetle, built like a tank. The bees can't sting them or anything, their cells are too hard. But they will go in a hive, lay a bunch of eggs, and their growths will feed on the beehives. Let's say beehives, they will feed on the wax, anything they get their hands on. So it can kill a hive very quickly. You have the biggest pest was the Verona destructor mite. This is a parasite. They feed on the bees, they like to feed on the brood, and they can introduce a lot of viruses into the hive. So even if you want to be pure organic and not treat and let the Darwinism mechanics take off, it's just go ahead and spend the money, do the treatments. Don't use the same treatments in the same succession. If you treat with one, treat with something else at a different time to prevent resistance. Follow the instructions, because if you don't treat for Verona mites during the summer, you have a 70% chance of the hive falling over the winter. And do you really want to spend another $250 for getting a pack of bees to start all over again? We need to spend I don't know, 20, 25, 30 bucks on a treatment and guarantee. The viruses, you don't have to worry too much about. If you do join a local beekeeping club, organization, whatever you want to call it, they will go into more details. Something else is the University of Arkansas. Their extension office actually put their beekeeping class online on YouTube, so you can watch at their own pace. OSU is talking about doing something like that. They said it was only costing $20 or something like that. A lot of it's grants, so it's very reasonable. Once your second year comes around, you can collect their honey then. If you're wondering about how many bees are in my configuration, you're looking about 60,000. And you can see there's some flight paths that's next to my head. But now's the time to start getting your equipment together. Everything else, you saw me use some of the equipment. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to bombard you with information right now. The main thing is, if you're wanting to get in beekeeping and you're on the fence, now is a good time to start getting your equipment. Start looking at the species of the bees, seeing if there's locally where you can buy from. So if you wait too long, you may end up getting them in May, June, which is be a little too late. Because think of it this way: when do you see flowers? April, May, June, unless you're up the Northeast, and you may usually have a secondary flowering season. Now mine's a little different right now because I do have a bit of a nectar flow going on. It's rare, but I have it. The other thing is, if you're going online, getting information off YouTube and whatnot, be mindful of the climate. A person in Pennsylvania is going to have different climate and situations than what you have out in, say, Oklahoma. So that's the gist of this. I'll go over the hive tools and equipment later on in another video, but hopefully this gives you a better idea of if you're wanting to start this hobby or not. And it's always a good thing to have bees, because the bees are threatened right now. Almost all the species are being threatened due to habitat loss. And something else I didn't go over: if you're worrying about trying to get food maximizing your crop because of the bees, go for solitaries. Mason bees, leafcutter bees, bumblebees. They're going to be more interested in the garden than the honeybees, unless you just have something they like. But I would always say it's always a good idea, if you want to get in the honeybees, you can sell the honey. It's not hard to recoup the cost. A lot of the expenses are front loaded. The main thing is just keeping the bees alive. But hopefully this helps you, gives you a little better understanding of the bees. Now, I apologize, I didn't want to go too far deep into the hive because I don't want to disturb them too much. I don't want to cause too many casualties. Next time, when I do have to go back in there to remove the treatments. This will be, see, mid, let's see here, August, September, 45 days, so that will be August, beginning of October. Had to do my math. So hopefully that was what I will go